It's been a lovely sunny day. We have been on a coastal drive. I am sticking very much to distancing, so I haven't been out walking and such like, but we did as a family go for a bit of a drive and explore some new places, some remote places. I can see there's a few people here. Give me a wave and a hello just to give me a check on sound or anything like that. I'm on my laptop tonight. I've muted my notifications. I'm guessing it doesn't mute my microphone as well. So, gravity and forces is one of my favourite things to do with children because it's something that they naturally do. Explore. I mean, all of learning is based from what children will naturally do, but it's probably one of the areas that I always found children to be most enthusiastic because they get to drop stuff and they get to push stuff and pull stuff and throw things downstairs and ramps and stuff like that. So when it comes to gravity and forces, we're literally anything that moves, how it moves over different surfaces, what it does. And actually just letting them play with stuff that can move is a fantastic learning opportunity for just making sense of how things work and working things out themselves. You don't even really need to do a huge amount with them for them to be able to explore gravity and forces. So we'll start off with baby. So babies with gravity and forces, it's about watching things roll and seeing how things move. So any kind of like pull along toys, excuse me. So we've got like, it's a crocodile, and as you pull it along, all of its spines kind of like bits of its spine clacker together and they make a noise. Or the walk along ones that you kind of on a stick, you push along and the feet go round and make a little flip flap noise or something like that, or a pull along dog. Anything that they can pull along or push along is quite nice to be able to see how things move and how things just how they kind of work and how things go across different surfaces. Another thing is rolling a ball, getting them to roll it, getting them to kick it with their feet. So if they are non-movers and they're lying on their backs, they can kick stuff and see what happens if they kick things. So a nice activity to do with seeing how different things react when you touch them, hit them or whatever is create like an archway over them or like a washing line over them. So what you can do is you can get a bit of string, or I don't know, like I used to use my dressing gown tie, and I'd tie it onto a chair on either end and I'd hang a couple of things from it. So like a little scarf, one of like a pram rattle type thing. You can get bits like foil or the emergency blanket, something over them so they can tap it, they can hear the sounds of it, but also they can see how they move, and the same of hanging things sort of down by their feet, so how things respond when we kick them and stuff like that. So that's quite a nice activity to do with tiny babies. Once they are able to crawl and cruise, then they've also got better hand-eye coordination. So things that we all know, kids go through the throwing stage. So grabbing stuff that they can throw about. So different balls or bean bags or collections of socks or things like that, and just getting them to throw them and feel how they are there, because what they'll do is they will work out that some roll better than others and some will bounce and others might not. So the prickly ones with the lights in, they quite often, if you roll them, they also have a little bit of a bounce on them, whereas something heavier probably doesn't have any kind of bounce. That's something like a scarf scrunched up or some socks scrunched up, especially baby ones, maybe won't go as far as a ball that is rounder, so we'll continue rolling. All of these things are ways for them to explore how different objects move. So giving them a block, so giving them, maybe not to like launch at you, but you know, showing them actually that something that's square doesn't move in the same way as that round ball, for example. Those kind of activities are quite nice to do with little ones. And also how different things land, so dropping stuff. So if you started weaning, you will know that children like to throw food. They like to throw food. They love to throw things off a high chair. And it's actually a really great way for them to learn as well. And what they're doing is they're learning how things react and how things respond to being dropped and the impact it has when it lands. Obviously, their brains aren't that complex and like going, oh, I'm going to drop this and see what happens. It's that, you know, they know something's going to happen. I'm just going to test it a little bit. So if they drop a bit of bread on the floor, it'll be very different than dropping a bit of yogurt on the floor. All of those things, they're actually learning. So I don't know, I used to put my high chair quite low on the floor. There was an adjustable one. He was always quite low for snack times and because he could just see it just there of what the impact has. So when they're making all that mess, it's great learning. Things down tubes, so getting a nice tube, so toilet roll tubes, you know, we've all got hundreds of toilet roll tubes now. Maybe no toilet roll, but keep the tubes. You can stick some together, or you could just use one and just popping things through them, and the children like holding them at different angles and seeing if you can drop things down them. You can use anything that, like a ball or cars or anything like that. So any kind of toys that move are great, and anything that will go down the tube will be brilliant. So those are some ideas for babies. So if they are crawlers or cruisers, getting them to go over and under things, and closing stuff and opening things. So toys with like little latches and things like that. They're great for different motor skills, but also again, they're just testing how things move and change. So toddlers and preschoolers, you can do exactly the same as we've just talked about with babies, but then also things like popping cars down ramps and tubes, thinking about how things move differently on different surfaces. So something my son quite likes doing is sitting in a washing basket and either me pulling him along or him pulling or pushing his teddies or whatever along in it. So he knows that if he wants to go fast, he will do that over our kitchen floor, which is wooden. Whereas actually it's a lot more difficult to be able to do on our carpet. So exploring those things. If you don't have a lot of space, you can use like a shoebox or just a pan or something like that and pop a little teddy bear in it. Pop a bit of string on there and get them to pull it along, get them to push it along. You can do almost like curling. So you can slide stuff along and see how far it goes. And you can try different types of materials and different containers along different surfaces. So sliding things along the floor, different types. Also seeing how things respond going downstairs. That's one of Joshua's favourite things. I did it at a time when he was already naturally starting to throw things down the stairs. So I decided to take control over that. It's a great opportunity to talk about stair safety. So teaching them how to go down the stairs carefully, teaching them about the potential risks and how to reduce those risks. So go sliding down backwards, things like that. And then choosing a selection of things for them to throw or roll down the stairs. And then you can choose some things to put up the stairs as well. So they get to see the difference. Also, we don't spend a lot of time playing on the stairs. it's a great place to go and just get a little bit of a distraction and a bit of change of scenery. So here we are, just check. Making vehicles for your toys or your siblings, we said about that. How things in your house move. So finding things that push and pull. So light switches, whether you push them, pull them or twist them. So going around the house and looking at how different things move, and you can get them, if you've got a child who is about to go to school, or you've got a child who's really keen on mark making, they can make some like sticky labels and do like some form of a mark to label stuff that pulls or pushes or twists or stuff like that. So go and explore. Good things to explore are door handles and doors, light switches, remote controls, washing machines, and obviously we don't want to encourage them playing with the oven, but sometimes ovens have got quite interesting little knobs and things like that. Play kitchens, they've got normally stuff that twists, the tap, and then you can look at toys as well, which ones push, pull, twist, turn. So if you've got one of those baby toys, you know, they've got like 4 things in a row, and some you slide and press and stuff like that, so you can look at something like that and talk about those. Right, so school age. Again, same as the babies and the toddlers, those are all activities that children can do. As they get older, like with any of the science stuff, is getting them to think about what they think might happen, why they think that might happen, how they're going to test it, thinking about that. So they can, if they want to create an experiment, they can write or draw what they're going to test and how they're going to test it. Just when they're school age, just anything that interests them that you can encourage them to write about. So if you say, right, okay, we're going to do an experiment about gravity or forces, whatever, and you, through conversation, come up with something that you want to do, you can say, okay, brilliant, but you need to give me a list of the things that you need for it. So that will then, hi Emily, that will then encourage them to write that list. Writing a list will enable them to use the sounds within their phonics, and will make them also realise that writing is for a purpose and it isn't just because they're forced to do it. Through time, actually, if they really enjoyed something, I find that actually, especially with experiments and things, children like to draw what's happened, get them to photograph it, get them, you know, if you can, upload it onto a computer and get them to type it on there, or use post-it notes. Don't think it has to be sat down in a book. So getting them to important things for any kind of experiments that they want to do, they need to think of a prediction. They need to write a list statement that they might want. You want them to kind of draw how or write how they're going to carry out the experiment, and then present their results in some way or another. And they can be creative. You know, they don't have to, it doesn't have to be a table or whatever. Let them be creative. Show me what you find, you know, some way, show me what you find, and you'll be amazed of the stuff they come out with. So kind of experiments that you could do, they can create a car ramp, so they can test the gradient, so how steep the ramp is, or the different types of surface on the ramp. So with that, whatever you create a ramp with, you can tie on or attach different types of material, so carpet or a scarf or kitchen foil, or just try different types of surfaces that have different friction, just to see, and then they can measure how far the car goes, or they can time, excuse me, I ate dinner just before I came on, or they can see, so they can measure how far it went. So if your child is in Key Stage 1, so year 1 or year 2, that can be in non-metric kind of measurements. So it can be non-standard measurements, so they can measure it in, say, 3 Lego blocks, or they can do like 2 finger lengths, or I don't know, they could literally just use anything like 2 cups long. And then anything in Key Stage 2, so anything from age 7 plus, you want them to thinking about measuring using centimetres, metres, that sort of thing. So they can measure how far something goes, or they can time it. So they can either count, or they can use a stop clock, or whatever. They can use a sun timer, a bubble timer, whatever. See how far that they go. Another thing is, so we've talked about this, different gradients, so how steep the ramp is. Also, dropping objects from a height. Now, we always used to do this with eggs. In the current climate, unless you have chickens, I'd probably choose something else. We used to choose an object, so you can choose a Lego man, or like a Small World person, or actually just a toy, anything that you would like to throw from a reasonable height, and let them drop it, and then let them create different types of parachutes for it, so made out of different types of material, to find which bit of material will sort of slow down the fall the best. That's quite a nice one, especially if you've got good banister. If you don't, then you can get an adult to drop it from a first floor window. Obviously, again, think safety. And again, measurements can be in a variety of ways. You can just count how quickly it takes down to the bottom if your children are younger, or you can get them to video it. Or, you know, there's a whole range of stuff that you can do with that. And I think that was my ideas and plans. Yes, throwing stuff and dropping stuff is like kids' favourite thing in the world. Ask them a few questions: how, why, what. See if you can apply it. You can set them a challenge. I don't know, you can tell them a certain distance that you need a car to travel, or something like that. Make it a bit of a fun. I think, especially if you've got multiple children, making a challenge is always a good way to get them really enthused about it. I hope that was okay. I feel like I've waffled on a little bit longer than normal. Yes, anybody got any questions or want any suggestions? I'm on my laptop, so I can actually see comments, because I've figured out that actually I can no longer see comments on my phone. So I'll give it just a second. And see if anyone has any questions. If you watch the replay and you have any questions, just pop it in and I will do my best to come back and answer. If you want any more kind of like suggestion of resources to go and look for vocabulary and things like that, then do give me a shout. I haven't been doing teaching resources for a good few years, so my I might not have up to date links, but I'm sure I can find them. Right, in that case, I'm going to go and have my cup of tea before I probably go and head for bed. We have done 200 miles of driving today. We did a little coastal tour. We drove over to Minehead, up Porlock Hill, which, if anybody knows Porlock Hill, talking about gravity, it's like this. Went to Lynmouth and Linton, and then we drove up over the moors, and then we didn't follow sat-nav, we just took literally the road that was closest to the coast, and just drove around. We saw lots of ponies and sheep and things. Had the windows down, stopped off at a deserted beach, went to Woolacombe, Croyd, and we went past Ilfracombe, and then we headed back, did a little loop. I had to get out of the house after being in for 7 days. Right, I can't see any questions, so I'm going to go. Hope everybody is having a good weekend, and I will see you all on Monday for my next little ramble of ideas. All right,